Good morning. Oh, you guys aren't awake yet. Let's try that again. Good morning. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Realtor.com office. I'm Danielle Hale, the Chief Economist for Realtor.com. I'm so happy to be here this morning to be talking about future-proof housing for the next generation. Before we get started, I'd ask that you would please silence your cell phones to make sure that we have an uninterrupted session this morning. And as you do that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. We've got Jared Kuhn, the VP of Real Estate and Land Development Sales at Icon Homes. And we've got John Ho, the CEO of Landsea Homes. Jared, why don't you tell us a little bit about your position and why you're excited to be here today?
Yeah, happy to. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. So I've been with Icon a little under a year. My background's actually, I'm a developer by trade. I was an apartment developer for about 20 years. And at Icon, my job is really to interact with developers and builders that want to use our technology. And kind of, I'd love to say my why. You know, as an apartment developer, I really saw the struggle of not getting things done in a resilient way. And we really need to find a way to build better, especially with concrete, more resilient structures. So I decided to join the cause and very excited to be with Icon. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Jared. And John, tell us a little bit about Landsea Homes and your role there.
Yeah, great. Good morning, everyone. I'm the CEO of Landsea Homes. I started the company in 2013 in California, buying one piece of land at a time, Northern California, Southern California. We expanded to Arizona and then took the company public in 2021. We now build, in addition to the West Coast markets, here in Texas, Dallas, Austin, Colorado, and Florida as well. One of the things that we recognized very early on is, you know, the way that we've been building homes has been the same way for a long, long, long time. I mean, you see these construction sites. We're out there with 2x4s with guys, you know, nailing the boards together. It's just a very, I would say, traditional method of construction. But you know, this is, you have to, as we think about Terstone as being a public company, how do we build homes, doing it profitably, doing it with growth, and doing it in ways that are affordable in today's environment. So one of the things that we did, and this was actually my master's thesis in grad school, was could we build homes that, for lack of better words, green or sustainable, and could we make money doing it? So one of the things that we really differentiate ourselves by is building what we call high-performance homes. Homes that are differentiated from our peers that have home automation, sustainability, energy efficiency, and healthy lifestyle, which we added post-COVID or during COVID. So there are a lot of elements in there that I think are that they need to meet today's needs of home buyers today, how people choose to live, what they're looking for in a home, and probably more very topical, future-proofing as well. So we're really passionate about that. We're really passionate about differentiating these homes. Being innovative home builders and really building a home for today's consumer, which is this generation of home buyers, whether it's millennials or the next generation of home buyers in the marketplace.
That's great. Thank you. So I want to set the stage a little bit for future-proof housing. We're talking future-proof, but what do we mean when we say future-proof? You know, we need more housing in this country, and we also need it to be resilient to climate events. We need it to be sustainable. We need it to be affordable. So when I think future-proof, I'm thinking about all of those things. But when we say future-proof, what does that mean to you, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at what's gone on in the last 2 years. We've got Hawaii burned down, Florida blew away, North Carolina blew away, and now LA. And, you know, at our mission at Icon, it's a couple of things, but a huge part of it's resiliency and building better. And so we just have to focus as a country and a world building structures that are going to remain after these natural disasters hit. And so, you know, we're excited with our homes because they withstand 200-mile-an-hour winds. They can withstand a 3-hour fire. They're mold resistant, they're pest resistant. Even if they go through a natural disaster, the home will still be there. The homeowner can return to the home. They'll be able to maintain where they live. And today, sadly, we continue to build back. And I'm in LA right now trying to figure all this out with them. And they want to rebuild the same exact way. And so at Icon, we're like pushing them and trying to get as many groups as we can on our cause, say, hey, let's try to think about this differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, John? What does that mean for you, future-proof housing?
Look, I think there is a clear advantage when it comes to new housing versus existing housing. When you build a new home, you're building it to code. A lot of things, certainly coming from California, a lot of the regulations that we had, sprinkler systems in our homes, building homes that are net zero or zero energy ready, required to put solar on our homes. I mean, there are a lot of things that sometimes can be too much, but there are definitely a lot of advantages to building to the newer code. A lot of existing homes, have been grandfathered in. And as you think about when these homes were built, they were built at a time when there probably wasn't the kind of drastic changes in the climate that we've had in certain regions. And I started my company in California. I lived in Orange County. I was evacuated from my home when we had our fires in Orange County a couple of years ago. But I lived in a brand new master plan community on the Irvine Ranch. And when we think about these new housing developments, these master plan communities, it's not just all the things we can be doing with that house, but the thoughtfulness and the planning that goes into these master plan communities, because there are certain setbacks. There are a lot of landscaping requirements in addition to all the materials and everything that we build to make more durable homes. So in that personal example for me, those wildfires burned all the way to the edge of the master plan community, and none of the homes were touched. And because they had the right setbacks, they were, they were built for that environment in those situations. And we've done a lot of those things when we build these new communities, because newer code and regulations require us to plan for these fires, plan for 100-year floods. So there is a lot of advantages when you build, first of all, with new construction, new housing. In addition to that, I do think that as we think about how designing the homes that we're building today, it really starts with when we buy that piece of land. It has to be in the underwriting. Because if I underwrite that house to be a house that has sustainability, energy efficiency, is durable, can sustain these kind of 200-mile winds, particularly in where we build in Orlando, that's really important, because that helps us. At the end of the day, we have to be profitable, certainly as a public company. So if we can plan on building that in the design phase, we can build it into our purchasing, our costs as well too, we're going to be able to continue doing that on a sustainable basis. I mean, we did 3,000 homes last year. We'd love to build homes that, our hope is to build those homes for not just 10 years, 20 years, but 50 years, 100 years, right? So you do have to think about that, and it can't be an afterthought. It has to be really done at the very beginning in that design place, in the underwriting of that land.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that you had that experience, but it I think is incredibly valuable that you can take that experience and use it in your business to think about what this means, to individuals who are going to live in these homes. We talked about fires in various areas and hurricanes and all the different risks. And at Realtor.com, we make risk information available on the site with our partnership with First Street. So we've seen that consumers are interested in this information. Are you seeing more demand from homeowners as it relates to future-proof housing? Is it top of mind? What are you seeing as far as trends go there, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, really a lot lately. So we saw a huge pickup in sales in January, and it was right after the fires. So, and you see in the little moments, like they're asking questions they didn't usually ask. And so this, LA fires, and I didn't see that with Maui. I didn't really see, you never see it with the hurricanes across the country. Like if they're not in a hurricane zone, they're not worried about it. But these fires really made a huge impact. But the other one I'll tell you that's really interesting, I've had a few moments with people talking about mold. And I've had people break down and cry to me because mold deeply affected their family. They had a really bad medical experience. And when they find out our homes are mold resistant, they just didn't know that was even possible. And so it's more than just the fires and the natural disasters. It's the whole product, how the product's off-gas in the home and how the residents are impacted that live in the home. And certainly the conversation is changing.
Yeah, and what about you, John? What do you see as far as consumer demand on future-proof homes?
We have done a lot of surveys of both new home buyers and our existing home buyers and what they really care about. I think energy efficiency is always top of mind. Because energy efficiency, I think, we build primarily entry-level homes or first-time move-up homes, so affordability is really important. So energy efficiency, the things that you do around that helps lower the cost of home ownership. So people don't always think about that at the beginning, but when they own a home, it really starts to hit them because, I mean, if they're particularly in climates, like we build in Phoenix where it gets really hot, right? Not that it doesn't get hot in Dallas or Austin too, but you're running your air conditioning 24/7. So when you build homes that have better insulated, tighter building envelopes, reducing the amount of energy you need to cool or heat that home, that's impactful. So we've received that feedback and they really like that. The other thing that's really top of mind now is water efficiency too. So there's a lot of great technology out there now for water efficiency, whether it's in the master plans that we use for irrigation and recycling, or whether it's just smarter ways to manage your own irrigation and the landscaping of your homes. So we're trying to incorporate that into sort of what we believe is a whole home system, sort of smart home environment. So water efficiency is incredibly important. And then, Jared, on your comment, during COVID, one of the things that we started doing was putting whole home air purification systems in our sales centers because we wanted our employees to be healthy, right? And wanted employees to, while most of our people could, most of the people in the office could work from home, our people that were on the front line, whether they were on the construction side or in the sales offices, we needed to make sure that they were safe and that they felt comfortable coming back to work. So that was really great feedback for us. We started doing that in sales centers. And then because of the great feedback, we just started applying that and speccing our homes as a standard to have whole home air purification systems in them. So every home that Lancy sells, whether the ones we're building down here in Kyle and Austin or in Orlando, Florida, in the HVAC system, there's a whole home purification system. So we just think that's something everyone really cares about. I mean, who doesn't want clean, healthy air? Everybody wants that, right? So we just build it into the cost of the house, right, and offer it as a standard.
That's great. And you mentioned that you work with a lot of first-time buyers or like first-time trade-up buyers. Are they coming in demanding this kind of energy efficiency and thinking about affordability from the perspective of the total cost of ownership, or do you have to do a lot of education with them to get them to think about these things?
I think it's evolving, and I think home buyers today that come into our sales centers are more educated than they have ever been. One, because there's so much information out there and it's at their fingertips. So by the time they get to our sales office or talk to a salesperson, they've already made a lot of 90% of their decisions and know exactly what they want. So they are very, I think, well equipped with information. I think it does help us when we provide them some additional, information to think about, whether it's simple things like, hey, this is the HER score for a new home versus existing. Because our biggest competition is not another new home builder. Our biggest competition is existing resale inventory. So when you're comparing a new home versus existing resale, you're really trying to say, hey, this is why there's such an advantage to a new home. And I think providing them information around that, providing information about home automation. We have a partnership with Apple, so all of our homes come, ready to use with that Apple HomeKit, and telling them about, hey, if you use it in this certain way, right, and you tie it into your thermostats, you tie it into your security system and all the things and features in your house, it really provides convenience. It provides smart home energy management. It provides a lot of these things. One of the things that we'd like to offer our home buyers is also personalization. And people can go really, really far with personalization in terms of wanting to make everything in their house automated, right? But it does cost a lot of money to do that. And they can add that on. But I think educating that home buyer what's available to them, because I think most people know, going back into the home and doing it is really, really hard. But if you can do it at the beginning in the construction phase, building, whether it's the Wi-Fi mesh network or the right conduits or just planning ahead for that, will make that home a lot will last a lot longer and more adaptable to new technologies. So that's an important piece, and I think that's really good information that we can give to the home buyer when they're making some of those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that consumers are demanding this. We know that technology can play a role. How about at Icon Homes, Jared? How are you using technology to help build these future-proof housing?
Yeah, so, obviously we 3D print our homes. So we're using large-scale automated printers to print the homes. And what's neat about it is that it's basically all automated. So we can print a home a lot faster and get a home built faster than a traditional home builder. So, we can print, call it a 2,000 square foot home in about 7 days. And then it takes another, 60 to 90 days to do the rest of the home. So we're delivering homes in 4 to 5 months right now. And so if you think about typical home construction where it could be like 8 to 10 months for a production home builder, we're going to be able to deliver units faster to the market. And that's what we need right now. And the quicker we can get homes on the ground, the quicker people can move into the homes. I did want to add one point to the last question. We're seeing a lot of interest from seniors. And, you think about the baby boomer, the whole age group, it's so large, and a lot of them don't want to move into senior housing, right? There's more in-home care now, and technology is going to enable that even more in the future. And they really love, back to the energy efficiency, they're on a fixed income. They want to know what their utility bills are, and we offer a really energy efficient home as well. And so the feedback on that kind of surprised me. And to see, they also love how peaceful the homes are. Our homes are really quiet. If you know anything about sound ratings, our STC ratings, 55, which is crazy compared to wood frame. And they like that peaceful, quiet environment. So it's a wide range. It's not just the new home buyers.
Interesting. And then, so technology, you talked about 3D printing homes. So for builders who aren't applying that 3D printed technology, are there other best practices that they can use to speed up and construction and future-proof housing?
I mean, it's tough. They're at the mercy of labor, and labor continues to evaporate in this country, especially in the Sun Belt region, and it's getting worse. We all know why. And, that labor just continues to go down. The skilled labor is gone, and so we have to find automated ways. And, there's other companies other than Icon, right? This is going to take a collective effort, right? But, we're trying really hard, prefabbing other things that aren't printed, and having a just-in-time delivery system so that as soon as the walls are printed, we can get the rest of the house built in a really timely manner. And home builders all have to be doing that right now, no matter how they build.
Yeah. So we've talked about the current situation. Consumers are aware of the risks of a changing climate. They're aware of the cost of ownership and thinking about utilities, and they're demanding that homes be built in a more efficient fashion. And you guys are using technology already to do that. Let's talk about the future. What is the future of future-proof housing? Where do you see this going over the next few years? And what role does the infrastructure grid play in that? What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, infrastructure is a problem. I mean, we're weighing down all of our electrical grids with electronic vehicles and now data centers. I mean, that's the quiet kind of thing that's not being talked about enough, is how much power these things suck up. So we really need to see businesses relocate to new areas of the country. That's how we're going to solve this. We need to get out second, third ring around smaller cities, not like Austin, little towns in America. And you're starting to see it, right? Some of these companies, here in Austin, there's obviously a lot going on in Bastrop. And then out in West Texas, in Van Horn, Blue Origin's got a big thing going on with all the space stuff they're doing. And, we're on the phone with them all the time, and they're like, we need housing now. We've got all these employees coming from California. They have nowhere to go. So that's going to help, because those are areas of the country that don't have power constraints yet. And so rather than burden the bigger cities that we have to find ways to incentivize companies and get people more spread out around the country.
But then as you spread them out, then you have to have the infrastructure in place to do that. And John, you talked about water efficiency as an important consideration. What else are you guys doing to enable building, not just in established cities, but also outside of cities?
Yeah, I think solar, the cost of solar has come down really significantly. And in California, where it's required, every home that we build has it on it already. I think that does kind of go hand in hand with these homes that we build and how are they being built to be more energy efficient. I talked about a couple of things, right? Tighter building envelope, better insulation, and 3D printing is going to help that a lot. But all the other things, the lighting, the HVAC systems, building a net zero home. So the amount of energy that, renewable energy that's required, whether it's solar or thermal or anything that's available out there, just requires less of it. And if we're all living in these homes that are just more highly efficient, because the amount of power it requires, and I hate to go back to why a new home is better, the amount of power it requires to power a new home versus an old home that doesn't have, the same kind of windows, right, or the same kind of doesn't go through the rigorous kind of testing that a new home does in terms of what we call the blow test, how airtight is at home. I think that has a lot to do with it. So I do think some regulation is good. I think that does help us, be better builders, building a better home for this next generation. But then all the things that we do in that home that makes it really convenient, right? And I think homes are not, as much as we like to talk about smart homes, they're not really smart right now. They're just turning on the lights with your app is not really smart because you're still doing it yourself. I think homes, as they move towards, and I really like what, Apple's been more late to the game than some of the other, applications out there, but they probably spend more money than anybody in terms of innovation in that area. And the things that they're doing around automation, I think in the HomeKit is going to be really incredible. And as I think about it, these are just software applications, right? You have to have the hardware that supports it, right? You have to have the hardware in the home that allows you to control it. But once you do that, there's going to be a lot of automation in that house where it learns how we live, right? It starts making those decisions for us and doing it in a way that puts less pressure on the infrastructure and the grid, reduces the costs, and start introducing more things that make living in that new home more convenient, more comfortable for us. So there are a lot of things out there. Some of them it's pretty far ahead, but I think there are some things that, robotics, things that automation that are in a home that could be installed pretty soon. And I think we have to plan for that, whether it's making sure that that home can support, the hardware that needs to be in that home and can be easily upgradable.
Yeah, that's great. So what I hear is technology is already a factor, but much like we're seeing with the AI revolution, I think we're going to see more of that in the future. You talked about regulation, and we've got a relatively new administration in office. How will future-proof housing be affected by the new administration, and how does the interaction between using technology to get to where we want to go versus using people? What's the trade-off there, and what do you see in the future with regulation or with other legislative policies?
Yeah, I think the thing right now is that we're starting to see is deregulation, and it's a little double-edged sword, the big thing that happened yesterday, but there was an energy efficiency requirement put in by the previous administration that made it mandatory to put very efficient systems in the home, and that's good, but it added $20,000 to $30,000 of cost to every home that's built. And so you need to do it, but maybe you let the home builders decide, or you incentivize them to do it in a way so that the consumer doesn't feel the end price. Because the reality is it's just adding that cost. And it's in apartments, it's in single family homes. So they put a pause on that. There's a 6-month stay HUD announced yesterday. The other thing is they're ramping up, tariffs is the other big topic, right? And so they're announcing that they're going to allow more deforestation in America to get lumber going. It's not great, right? We all love forests, but the reality is that lumber prices could rocket. And we get the majority of our lumber out of Mexico and Canada, and there's high tariffs coming. And if the lumber prices spike back to where they were in COVID, $2,000 a linear foot, it's going to be a problem. Homes are going to stop being built, apartments are going to stop being built. We're going to have to find other solutions. That's great for Icon. We use concrete. We like that, but then on the other side, there's steel tariffs, and we use metal reinforcement in our walls. So no one's safe, I think, no matter how you look at it. And I've called a lot of my peers in the apartment industry trying to understand what they're going to do and how it's impacting them and what they're thinking. All these major developers or apartments are adding huge contingencies to their budget, to the budgets that don't even pencil now. There's no apartments being built in America. We haven't built apartments for 2 years now, for the most part. It's probably going to be another 2 years, and that was before these tariffs. So it's a scary time with the tariffs, but we just need to see more, partnership with the home builders. And like NAHB is doing a great job. And I mean, I hope they can get a louder voice and they listen. And it seems like this administration is going to, but people like John, Icon, like we need to get in DC with NAHB and really work with them and have them hear what we need to be able to get these homes in more hands.
So it sounds like a mix of opportunities and challenges. What about you, John? Anything you're seeing or excited about or concerned about?
I think there's things that the federal government can do at that level. I mean, top of mind is interest rates. Some stabilization around interest rates would be helpful. Interest rates hit us from both sides, right? It hits us from our cost of capital. It's more expensive than ever for us to borrow money to build the homes. And then it also hits us because our home buyers, most home buyers in this country, and particularly in the entry level and first time move up, they need a mortgage, right? And 30-year fixed mortgage is really important. So we, in order to solve for our home buyers, really solve for a monthly payment for them, right? And everything goes into that, whether it's insurance or energy costs or the mortgage, taxes, and so forth, everything wins. But that monthly payment is really important. So that mortgage rate is really important. So I think there's things that certainly that can be done at the federal level for that. I think there's also some things that you can be doing or continue to be doing on the tax credit side. So to get us, builders or 3D contractors or anybody to start investing in some of this technology and not having to pass it on, right? Because we already know that the cost of ownership in this country has probably grown more dramatically in the last couple of years than it has in the last couple of decades. And for example, why we're doing the net zero homes here in Austin is because we want the 45L tax credits. That helps offset our cost of having to put a lot of that, put those additional costs in the home. So I think there's things that certainly can be done at that level. And the other things, I don't know, whether it's immigration, whether it's terrorists, it is a lot of noise. I don't know how or when it's going to affect us. It's not affecting us today on the ground because we've bought a lot of those materials. We've contracted for a lot of that work for the next 6 months to 12 months. But thereafter, we're not sure. We have been through this before, whether it's during COVID or whether it's when the same administration was here a while back, and there were terrorists as well. So our supply chains have become more resilient. They've become more flexible. They have more places they can go to source materials. So I think we do have a lot of confidence and a lot of experience with that now. But at the end of the day, for us, in all the markets that we build, real estate is local. And as much as the federal government would like to do, it's controlled at the local municipality level. And I take California, and I'm not bashing on California for any reason because I'm from there. But it's not like California doesn't have a lot of land. It's a ton of land in California. It's just what's available for you to build on is very limited. The cost of land for us in California is about 40% of the cost of the house, 45% of the cost of the house. Most other parts of the country, it's 23% of the cost of the house. So it's a big difference in why, when we talk to investors, our average selling price in our shareholders is average selling price of our home for us in California is around $800,000 to $900,000. The average selling price for a home anywhere else that we build in the country, same entry-level home, is mid-$400,000. It's a big difference. But why is it expensive? Well, there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of impact fees. There's a lot of things that cost us that go into that cost of the house that make it more expensive. So we moved our headquarters. We moved to Texas a year and a half ago. Very happy to be here. We're building a lot in Austin, building a lot in Dallas, DFW market. We want to build more homes. We think, just as Realtor.com believes, this is very undersupplied. We're undersupplying the market in terms of housing and new housing, particularly in this kind of market environment. So I think at the local level, there needs to be more support around that. There needs to be more recognition that we need to provide housing, particularly at this entry-level segment, and we have to provide more of it. So we need less regulation. We need less costly fees, right, to encourage us to do that and to keep the prices, more at an attainable level.
Yeah, thanks. So you're not the only company I've heard of that's moved to Austin or to Texas lately. For those who don't know, Realtor.com recently made a similar decision. But what I'm hearing is that the government needs to be strategic about regulations, the sticks, and then incentives, the carrots, to really encourage future-proof development, but in a way that doesn't impact builders' ability to build for customers in an affordable fashion, right? Because when we add on those requirements, we do tend to increase costs unless we maybe incentivize them via credits that can offset some of the cost. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something more fun. I mean, you have talked about mold-proof homes, which is not something that I was actually familiar with before. What other, concepts are part of this future-proof housing idea? We've talked about, energy-efficient homes, fire-resilient homes. What are you excited about in the next 5 to 10 years for future-proof housing?
Yeah, for us, it's the freedom of form with 3D printing, what it offers. We don't have to build a straight wall. And basically every construction technology available on planet Earth to this point in history has required basically to use straight lines. So if you've seen some of our homes, we've got some amazing, incredible designs where we've partnered with really great architects and really tested the boundaries of what's possible. So we did these homes in Marfa. We delivered the first one, and it's all circles. Like, whoever thought they could live in a round home? So I think you're going to see just the world's going to look totally different. I say this a lot internally. Like, I grew up playing SimCity, and like there was a point when you'd play the game and the buildings looked totally weird, and you're like, what are these buildings? We're actually there, and it's going to happen. So we're excited at Icon to really push the boundaries on that, but also the automation side and the speed at which homes get built. Like, it's going to be in a real near future. Like, our new robot comes out next year, and it looks totally different. It's a big crane, and it looks really cool. You're going to drive by construction jobs and see these massive robots building buildings, and it's not going to be like anything we've ever seen before. And they're going to be going very quick, and they serve great purpose from a resiliency standpoint, energy efficiency standpoint, and a design standpoint. So I'm super excited for that and like getting our technology in the hands of others. And that's our ultimate goal. Like at Icon, our goal is to empower the world of builders to use 3D printed technology. So I think it's just going to look a lot different than it's looked. And then the last piece I'd say is it's the next generation. So all the kids today are using 3D printers. They've grown up with them already, right? My kids have them. Most kids do. They play them at school. It's a part of their life now, like technology is. And you're going to see, we believe, we're going to see a whole new generation of builders and creators and developers and architects that grow up using this technology. And they're going to think like totally different, not like we think. And that's so exciting, right? And like to be a part of that and try to be helping with that. When I get the college kids that come to Icon, that's probably my favorite day because the enthusiasm, the excitement, the hope is there.
So you're going to get the difference between, say, a digital native and a non-digital native, except with 3D printed homes. I'm also thinking my kids are going to love the robot builders, but I don't know where they're going to hide if there are no corners in the rooms. What about you, John? What are you excited about for the future?
I definitely put my kids in that category of they tinker around with a 3D printer at home and they build that stuff, and absolutely, I think that's extremely exciting, especially if you think about production home building. And we offer only so limited amount of elevations and floor plans, right, in production home building. So it's really, you have a pretty limited menu that you can pick from. So at one point, if the technology is there where you actually get to take that personalization to the next level, because we don't do any structural options. We just can't. It's too hard to change a plan and to get it approved by the local government. So I think that is very exciting to be able to enhance that. And I do believe that if we can build homes that today, if you look at the homes that we try to build, and we're a pretty young company, we've only been around for 10 years, so we don't have any legacy floor plans, we don't have any legacy sort of designs. Every community, we're trying to use the latest designs that are available, latest technology that's available, trying to find the most efficient and more contemporary looking homes. that we have. But as we think about, I guess, years ahead and maybe decades ahead, I think people are going to, we're already seeing today, I think people are going to want more utility out of their homes. The home is not just a place that you go to sleep anymore. I mean, the home is where you work, it's where you educate, it's where you work out. I mean, it's everything. And it's a lifestyle too. So I think it's more than just a home. It's a whole community. It's making sure that community has all the lifestyle needs that it can offer, right? Whether it's the tracks, right, or the pools, the community pools, or the kids' playrooms, or the gyms, or something. We want to be able to offer that in these, particularly in our master plan communities, right? If we're building 500 homes in a master plan community, we want to make sure that community has that, because that community, those families, they're going to want to have that nearby. And then with the homes, I mean, I like, for me, it's not there yet, but it does. Some of the functions do work pretty well. Like on my phone, right? On Apple HomeKit, I have everything on my home that's there. I have my security cameras. I have my lighting. I have my irrigation system. I have garage. Everything is in there. But I have to think about it. I have to, say, hey, I want to open that. I want to turn this off. I really want to see that kind of go to the next level at some point where, we talk about AI, we talk about all these things that could really start thinking, for me, in the mornings and the evenings, or, how we choose to live, all these things, when our kids get home, right? Having all those things set up, and having an assistant there almost helping us in that sense. And I do think one area that is going to be coming, I think, is whether it's in the construction, whether it's robotics, but also in how we live. I think robotics are going to come into the house at some point too. And might not have full-on robots, but there could be, how amazing would it be in the kitchen if you had an extra arm, right? Doing some things for you. I mean, those are things that could be pretty cool, and they're not that far out. I mean, they're talking about that now, and hopefully we'll build a house that allows for that robotic arm to be installed pretty quickly. So I think there are a lot of really cool things that are coming, and I think the technology's there, and more importantly, the cost of technology has come down a lot. So,
Yeah, that's exciting. It's an exciting time to be in home building and to think about homes, as you said, not just the places where you live, but it's so central to everything that you do in your lives. And then we're here at South by Southwest. We've got an audience, and we have some time for questions. So we'll get this exchange going. As I understand it, I have some questions here. Here we go. All right. I love it. The idea of hope for future generations to build towards the American dream sometimes feels really unattainable. What's a piece of advice that you would give to future generations to get them to access that American dream?
The question was how to get the fuel?
No, the idea of how next generations can often feel that homeownership or the American dream is out of touch or out of reach. What advice would you give them on how they can attain the American dream?
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
Well, I think my version of the American dream, right, is certainly I was born in China. I came here when I was 4 years old. My version of the American dream is, defined by, I guess, how I define success, which is finding something that I'm really, really good at, doing something that I really love, and being able to share that with everyone else. So for me, I didn't fall into home building. I was in commercial real estate before. I sort of stumbled into what I do now. But man, I feel incredibly passionate about the product and what we're doing now, and particularly for the entry-level home buyer. One thing really stood out to me is when I started Lancy Homes, I would say 70-80% of our home buyer were a first-time home buyer. There's been a dramatic run-up in prices. there's also been a dramatic run up in interest rates, right? That stat has probably gone down below 50% now. And it's not because we're building a incredibly different home. It's just gotten a lot more expensive. The affordability is really challenged right now. And as we think about how do we help that, how do we provide solutions, right? It has come to, it's dawned on us that we have to be a total solution provider. We have to solve not only for building the actual physical home, but the mortgage payment, the insurance, all these things. We have to deliver a total solution to make sure that is attainable, that whether homeownership may or may not be the dream, but I do think a lot of people want that home because I think real estate historically is where you build your equity. It's been historically one of the best investments. There's tax advantages, and I think most people want to do that. And if you survey people, most people who start a family, that's the first thing they want. They want a home. So I do think that as home builders or our industry as a total think about that, trying to deliver that whole solution is really, really important, which is why we've gotten so involved now in mortgages. I mean, we've never been that involved in thinking about mortgages before, but now when we talk to a home buyer, we're talking about, this is our monthly payment for you. This is how I can solve that monthly payment for you. And it's not from reducing the price, it's from buying down the mortgage rate for you to lock you into a 4% mortgage for 30 years. That's a huge advantage. So I think there are things that we're doing, or industry is doing, to try to encourage or allow for that first-time home buyer to get into that first home. So.
Yeah, I think that mortgage rate buy down is a really key component. In some of our research, we found that builders are more likely to offer that than among existing sellers. And I think a lot of consumers might not be aware of that as an option to help make homes more affordable. What about you, Jared?
Yeah, I think I would add that there is hope from a technology standpoint. Like, I just think back 10 years ago when there wasn't these advancements and we didn't have any hope. So there is now hope for the next generation, but also it's a little cliche about there's so many ways that we as individuals could get in and impact this crisis. That's why I'm at Icon. There's a crisis in housing and I'm driven by it. And so I left the development, line of work, which was very good to me, but because I wanted to help. And I think that can be whether it's banking or technology with inventing new technology or home building. So there's a lot of ways that we as people can get involved in solving the housing crisis. And when you get involved, you create hope for yourself and others. So you can't just sit back and let it happen. You got to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question here about outdated building codes and whether those impact your ability to provide innovative homes. Who wants to go first on this question?
It's a tricky one. Yeah, I mean, the building code, from our standpoint, it's interesting, right? Because we do something that's never been done in most jurisdictions, and a big part of what I do is meet with cities and talk to them about it. The building code officials, both state, federal, local, they all need to get involved and get educated, and they need to understand it better, and they need to listen to their partners. But they're starting to. That's the good news. And so we've not had a problem getting any of our homes permitted, right? It's a totally different technology, but it works and they listen. And so I just hope and pray that we see our state and local jurisdictions continue to evolve and improve it, that makes it so we can continue to build, but also build it energy efficient, conscious.
And you talked about wanting to expand that technology to other builders, so it'll be an interesting test of like when you move beyond the areas that you're working in already, how well.
Yeah, we're thinking a lot about that.
What about you, John? Anything to add on that question on building codes?
I just add, you look at a lot of countries around the world. A lot of countries have these uniform building codes, and it's very helpful. It really reduces costs because how I build in one city versus how I build in the next city can be very different based on that local building code or what that city planning department wants from us. And so every home is a custom home now almost. So you got to go back to architects, you got to go back to your engineers, you got to redesign things. That's very costly. And I think, I don't know, this is how we were set up. This is how, this is the country, there's a lot of benefits to that. But there are, those are the things that, if we could have a uniform building code, if we could have some consistency, I think that would be very helpful for both of our organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. You get some experimentation with all the differences, but it can make it really challenging for you guys. We have more questions that we won't be able to get to today, but thank you so much for joining us for this panel. It's been a really great discussion. You're welcome to stick around. We're going to have some time between this session and our next panel, which will be here at 11:30 a.m. We're going to talk about what Texas can teach us about solving America's housing crisis. And then for those of you who are going to be around on Monday, we're going to do a panel called Unlocking Supply, addressing the missing 4 million homes in America, some of which we've alluded to today about the need to build more. And the mayor of Austin is going to join us at the Thompson Hotel for that session, and that's going to be at 11:30 Central Time as well. So thank you, Jared and John, for being
you.
here, and thank you to the audience as well.